Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session. It is Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. It is 9:02 a.m. This is a hybrid meeting and we are in Building 1, Room 280. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel or join by calling 360-252-9020, PIN number 1234. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. Vice Chair Ty Menser is excused for today. He is at a salmon recovery retreat. Commissioner Gary Edwards joining us via Zoom, and he'll be in the boardroom pretty soon. We will, County Manager Ramiro Chavez in the boardroom, as well as Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. We will start today with our COVID-19 update, and I see Kurt Harding and Dr. A.
Good morning, Commissioner. Kurt Hardin, Interim Director for Public Health and Social Services. Today, COVID update is as of May 3rd. Most of the data here is as of May 1st, though, as a cutoff. Total cases in Thurston County since the start of the pandemic is 48,358 as reported by the state. And unfortunately, the deaths in Thurston County are 412 as reported by the state. Our 14-day per 100,000 case rate has risen to 211.7. As an example, on April 24th, it was 133, and then on April 17th, it was 88.7. So it's not going in a direction we like. I think Dr. Abdelmalek will have more to talk about that in her portion of the update. For hospitalizations, our data is as of May 1st. Total hospitalization since the pandemic began is 2,262. Current COVID patients are 10 with 0 suspected COVID. The number on ventilators is 1. Our ICU available capacity is 5 for adults and 0 for pediatrics, and acute bed available capacity is 7 adult and 0 pediatric. For our congregate care outbreaks, this is as of May 2nd. We've had a total since the pandemic began of 193 congregate care outbreaks, and currently we have 12 congregate care outbreaks under investigation. So our vaccination status, vaccine doses given in Thurston County as of April 30th, all these numbers are as of April 30th. Total doses is 527,171. Percentage of people initiating vaccination is 72.4% in Thurston County. Percent of people fully vaccinated is 65.7. The percentage of people initiating vaccination who are age 16 and older is 82.2%. The percentage of people fully vaccinated age 16 and older is 74.6%. The percentage of the population initiating vaccine age 5 and older is 76.5%. And then the percentage of the population fully vaccinated age 5 and older is 69.5%. And then the percentage of eligible people receiving booster doses, that's age 12 and older who are eligible to receive the booster dose, is 58.8%. Our vaccination clinic in the Capitol Mall still is open. It's open 4 days a week. For Thursday through Saturday, it's open 11 to 8. And then on Sundays, it's open 11 to 6. Again, we encourage appointments, but walk-ins are welcome. For testing, we have the same testing schedule as previously discussed in previous weeks. Today it's at the Rochester, in Rochester, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the roof parking lot next to the Boys Club. Tomorrow it'll be at Lacey at 3811 Pacific Avenue. Thursday it'll be in Olympia at the Union Gospel Mission. And then Friday at the Evergreen State College. All test sites this week are planned for 10 to 1, but we'll close early if testing capacity is reached. And now at this point, I'd like to turn over to Dr. Abdelmalek for her portion of the update.
Good morning, Commissioners. We are continuing to see an increase in COVID-19 cases as well as COVID-19 clusters and outbreaks in our community. We are following our hospitalization data closely. And we continue to encourage members of the public that if they are experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 to stay home and get tested. So the CDC has released a testing algorithm for the general community. So folks who are symptomatic with symptoms consistent with COVID-19, if they test negative on a antigen test, like one of the tests that you have at home, should test again 24 to 48 hours after with a second antigen test, or seek PCR testing. In any case, even if the results are negative on both rounds of testing, folks should really stay home until symptoms have greatly improved and they've been fever-free without use of fever-reducing medications for 24 hours. This prevents the spread both of COVID-19 as well as other circulating viral upper respiratory illnesses. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is that so one of the things that I continue to encourage the public to do is to look at their own individual risk of COVID-19 and consider masking in indoor public spaces or crowded areas. That's something that each individual can do, thinking about what their risk is of severe illness and their risk of passing on COVID-19 to someone who's at risk of severe illness. I also wanted to provide an update on COVID-19 treatment options. There are a couple of new pieces of information. One is that there is that the federal government is working to expand access to Paxlovid, which is an antiviral treatment that can be used within 5 days of symptom onset by folks who are at risk of severe illness. This is a provider prescribed medication. And for folks who have a prescription, there is a locator where you can look and see where in the county or anywhere in the country, actually, you can get that prescription filled. The second update on the COVID-19 therapeutics area is that remdesivir, which is an antiviral medication that has been used since fairly early on in the pandemic, was recently approved by the FDA for pediatrics patients. So this would be patients who are 28 days and older and weighing at least 3 kilograms. This is an injection medication, and of course would be administered and would be at the discretion of an individual provider. And with that, I'm open to any questions you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, ma'am. Thank you.
I don't have any questions as well. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Dr. Ray. Our next item, I didn't see anyone in the boardroom's hands raised. So, okay. So our next item is homeless strategies, and I see Keely Marino. Go ahead, Keely.
Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. Today, I have just a very brief update for you, and Tom Webster has joined me in order to give you an update on rent assistance. This coming Friday marks the first day of a significant retreat that we are having for the Regional Housing Council and members of the Housing Action Team together, where we'll be grappling with the home fund, what that looks like, and the relationship between the Housing Action Team and the Regional Housing Council. And I'm really looking forward to it. The first day is this Friday, and then we will have one following retreat day next Friday. So just looking forward to that. And I'll turn it over to Tom.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Webster with Public Health and Social Services. So our rent assistance update for this week. So we have some updated numbers from Live Stories. So far, Live Stories has distributed $484,000 in rent assistance, serving 53 households. And they have about 410 applications that they're currently working on. We did send out a blast email early Monday morning. We have opened up Live Stories to the general public. However, we want to make it clear that those folks who are in process with CAC are still being prioritized for service. Those folks who had an application with CAC have two options. Live Stories is continuing to transfer those applications into their system and serve those clients. However, clients may also directly access the Live Stories application and resubmit their information. Some of that may need to be resubmitted anyway as it becomes out of date. And then Live Stories has their name as a priority applicant, and we'll kind of move them to the front of the line. So applicants have those CAC clients that come in from CAC have two options. They can wait, and Live Stories is working through those to transfer their information as quickly as possible, or they can go ahead and resubmit their information if they would like to do so. So we continue to kind of put that message out. I know we've received a lot of questions kind of yesterday and today with those folks coming from CAC worried that they were no longer going to be prioritized. I want to emphasize and clarify that those folks with CAC are continuing to be prioritized for processing by Live Stories. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I do have a question. Tom, for how much longer are you anticipating that these rent assistance checks are going to continue to go out? What I'm looking for, we've got more job openings than we've ever had. So what gives? Where's it going to end?
So a couple different thoughts on that question. One is we are receiving some additional, so I will be coming to you kind of later in the month with some additional requests for additional funding that we've received from the state and funding that was remaining in the CAC contract to provide the Live Stories. So the federal funding, kind of the TRAP funding, we expect to wind up here. Probably we'll spend that out perhaps by the end of June. That's a rough estimate on my part. Then we'll be getting some money, roughly $7.5 million from the state under the ERAP program, Eviction Rent Assistance Program. And I would expect that would last perhaps through the end of the year. So I think, and maybe not, once again, kind of very rough estimate. So I think we're going to see the end of the surge of federal and state rental assistance dollars kind of winding down towards kind of fall into the winter of this year. However, with the 1277, which is a new document recording fee that the state passed last year, the state is setting up a long-term ongoing permanent rent assistance program. This will be funded at a much lower level, but we are expecting to receive funds under this program later this summer. That will be an ongoing permanent program, and it will be very targeted. We're still waiting to hear the specific kind of criteria for those, but it will be very targeted to very low income and people who are really on the verge of eviction. So it will not have the broad criteria and eligibility criteria that the TRAP funding has. So I expect kind of over the summer into the fall, we'll see a winding down of the TRAP program, and then there'll be an ongoing program which will be much more targeted going forward.
Okay, say just one other quick thing. Have we received the canceled checks back from the Community Action Council as requested by Mary Hall numerous times?
I looked as of yesterday. I did not see them uploaded, so I do not believe.
Any reason given? We can't continue with the audit without that information. Have they said there's a problem? I don't know, in the computer, or what's the problem with that?
I have not had a communication with CAC regarding those canceled checks. I do not know.
But they haven't come in yet?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards, I believe there was some communication between the auditor and Ms. York in the evening yesterday. I saw some emails come up in regards to that. And so not sure if you've had a chance to look at them yet, but
Okay.
it kind of talks about that aspect that you're asking about. Robin, I saw your hand up.
Yes, Commissioner, just to Commissioner Edwards' first question regarding when will this wind down? I just want to say that we will run out of money long before we run out of demand. So even though we have a very low unemployment rate right now, this program has never been funded to the extent that everyone who needs it gets it. So the truly unfortunate thing is we'll run out of money before we run out of applications.
Yeah, thank you, Robin, for saying that, especially as rents rise kind of this year. That will definitely put a real burden on a lot of households. So thank you, Robin. That's an excellent point.
I was going to ask something and then I forgot. So if I have any additional questions, Keely, Tom, I'll reach out. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of May 3rd, 2022. And so with that, we'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards, the approval of the Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022 agenda, and the approval of the board meeting minutes from April 26, 2022. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Next, we will have two presentations today. The first one is a proclamation for Military Appreciation Month.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. For your consideration will be a proclamation where the Board of County Commissioners will proclaim the month of May 2022 as Military Appreciation Month in Thurston County. There will be some guests attending this afternoon, so I will ask Jamie to walk us through what we expect this afternoon in terms of guests attending for this proclamation.
We have Bruce Rohrbaugh, our Fleet Services Manager, who's planning on attending virtually. He asked me to send him the link this morning.
I think he is I believe he's part of representing all the veterans.
Yeah, we sent the link out to Mark Moffett as well, but I believe he was unavailable to attend today.
Any chance that Bill Adamson responded to that?
I haven't received a response from him yet.
Did we reach out to any of the VFWs or any organization?
Other than the one that Bill Adamson is affiliated with, and I'm trying to remember the name of it right off the top of my head.
Military Communities Partnership.
Yeah, thank you, Romero. No, we didn't reach out to the VFW.
Okay.
Is Bill still on our Veterans Committee?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully he got the word out.
Hopefully he got the word out. It was an invitation. I know that he's busy, and but he tends to make time, so hopefully that will work.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, sir.
on these proclamations, I was just told that this week is National Corrections Officer Week. Has anybody heard anything about that?
I haven't, and in the past few years, I don't think the board has passed a proclamation related to that.
Okay.
But certainly, if there is any new information, I'd love to.
So this is National Public Employee Recognition Week.
And maybe that's it.
In Thurston County, we don't align our public employee celebration with the National Week, but we do see a lot of, I'm going to use the word affiliated celebrations like Public Works Week and perhaps Corrections Officer Week, and it all seems to be tied into the recognition of public employees.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to our next proclamation, which is the Proclamation for Emergency Medical Services Week.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This afternoon, again, the Board of County Commissioners will give the opportunity to proclaim the week of May 15th through May 21st, 2022 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Thurston County. I believe this is also a national recognition, and Ben Miller-Todd is here to give you additional perspective of this proclamation. Ben?
Good morning, Commissioners. Just a few pieces that we're going to be talking about. The presentation will include 4 different representatives from 4 of our 15 total agencies that cover the county for EMS services. Just so you're aware, there's about 700 total providers and supporting staff throughout these 15 agencies that help to support the EMS structure in Thurston County. The Medic One levy has been voted and approved on and continuously active for 48 total years, starting in 1974. And our key partners include Airlift Northwest, 2 of our hospitals, which are Capital Medical Center, Providence St. Pete's. And then I also want to call out Providence Centralia as they take a number of Thurston County patients in over the course of the year. Other partners include TCOM and EM. Thurston County EMS responded to 37,837 calls this past year, which is a 14% increase off of 2021. And we're on track in 2022 to clear 40,000 calls. We responded to 287 cardiac arrests. 26 loved ones got to walk back home after this event to their loved ones. We did see a 29% increase in the number of cardiac arrests in Thurston County, as well as a 40% increase in the number of cardiac arrests related to opioid overdoses. And this is where I just want to call out that EMS doesn't just start with the activation of 911. A lot of our partners and what's covered in the Medic One levy is free CPR, bystander CPR to the public. I will call out that in 2019, there was a 12% increase in survival for those that received bystander CPR before EMS arrived. And so those trainings can be signed up through the Medic One website. All you have to do is Google search Medic One, and you'll be able to Thurston County Medic One, and you'll be able to pull up those classes and be able to sign up for those. And we really encourage that. With that being said, our four attendees will also be able to present, obviously, their name, agency, years of service, and then I've asked them just a couple sentences on why they're passionate about the Thurston County EMS system. Other than that, are there any questions?
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner?
No questions, thank you, ma'am.
And I don't have questions either. Commissioner Edwards, prepare yourself. I hope you have some water set aside.
Okay, I guess I'm reading today. Got it. Got it, boss.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, next there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
Yeah, you received a written testimony this morning from Mr. Pettit. It's in your email, and that gives you a preview of his public testimony this afternoon. Other than that, I don't have anything else related to that, and I really don't have any county manager items to be following up.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No
Comments?
questions, thank you.
Okay. Next is item 3. We'll move to consent items. Starting off, there's only one item, item 3A, reappointment to the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The Board of County Commissioners discussed this reappointment of Ms. Ellen Went to the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging as a representative for District 3, and this term of reappointment is for 2 years.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, comments, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to department items, Public Health and Social Services. Item 4A, Home American Rescue Plan contract with U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. You reviewed this item last week. The Housing and Urban Development Department provided Thurston County with a grant of $3,053,474 for housing activities. And this funds, they come from the American Rescue Plan of 2021, which that piece of legislation appropriated $5 billion to provide housing services and shelter to individuals experiencing homelessness and any other at-risk populations. The funds must be primarily benefiting individuals and families who are homeless, at risk of being homeless, fleeing violence, and any other vulnerable populations. Eligible activities include the development of support of affordable housing, tenant-based rental assistance, provision for supportive services, and acquisition of the development of non-congregate shelter units. So this is the first step in accepting this grant. It also, before we can start spending on specific activities, we need to develop what we call as a home allocation plan. And that will be the first step that we need to do, developing this plan after the board consider getting into this agreement to receive this grant. We have Jacinda still just here to add additional perspective or answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Jacinda, anything you'd like to add?
Good morning, Commissioners. Jacinda Stelches, Public Health and Social Services. Just only wanted to add that, again, as the county manager mentioned, this is the first step. It's needed for us to use 5% if we choose administratively to put together that plan, which will identify gaps in our housing and homeless services related to those populations that were mentioned. And then once that plan is in place, we would bring back to this board and the public for comment and discussion the specific activities that the funding would be applied toward.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No question.
And I don't have any questions. Thank you. Item B and item C, County Manager, if you can tackle them together. It's a fiscal year 2019 and 2020 HUD Annual Action Plan Amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you may recall, the Board of County Commissioners held a public hearing last Tuesday where no public testimony was received related to changes or amendments to the Urban Development House Annual Action Plan for 2019 and 2020. The amendments to the 2019 includes moving $300,000 from the CDBG-CV funds from the COVID-19 testing and vaccination coordination to quarantine and isolation. And the amendments to the 2020, it moves $133,276 in home funds from the Low Income Housing Institute Fleetwood Apartments Rehabilitation Project to the newly created Low Income Housing Institute located at 2828 Martin Way Phase 2 project. Just to make sure on the 2020 amendment, moving the $133,000 from the low income housing, Fleetwood Apartments, that doesn't mean that that project is not funded, it's fully funded. It's just a funded remainder, it moves to the next project. So Jacinda, any additional perspective?
Nothing to add, but am here for any specific questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
I don't have any questions. It was such an exciting public hearing.
I will change for your consideration the action this afternoon to include the interim director of public health and the action.
Perfect.
On both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Moving on to Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You reviewed this item as well last week. And this is related to a stormwater retrofit project, specifically related to water quality, located in the Water Creek. And it is it's a stormwater conveyance system and builds a bio retention facility in two properties right now. The surface water goes across the road and has a direct discharge on Water Creek. This particular project will capture the water, treat the water before it's released to the creek. Total project cost of this project is $698,000, where $583,263 is coming from a grant from the Stormwater Facility Assistance Program from the state of Washington, and the remainder will be matching funds from the stormwater facility. Charlie Valdez is here to answer any additional questions the board may have.
Thank you. Torrin, anything you'd like to add?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, questions?
No, I think we've covered this adequately. Thank you very much.
I don't have questions either. Okay, and that will conclude the agenda. Our commissioners will then report on board work sessions and assign committee meetings, and then the county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners schedule for the week of May 3rd. And we will adjourn, and that will conclude the agenda for Tuesday, May 3rd. Next, we will review the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of May 10th, 2022. So Pledge of Allegiance to be called at, call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Menser. Approval of the Tuesday, May 10th agenda and approval of the board meeting minutes from May 3rd, 2022. After that, there will be two presentations. The first one will be a proclamation for National Police Week.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your consideration. for you to proclaim the week of May 9th through May 11, 2022 as the National Police Week in Thurston County. Sheriff Snaza will be present, and I believe he will be accompanied by some representatives from law enforcement and the Sheriff's Office and maybe other law enforcement agencies here in the county. This is a great yearly event in which the Board of County Commissioners can show their appreciation to the law enforcement agencies here at Thurston County to keep us all safe.
Thank you. Questions, comments, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Are these dates right? May 9th through 11th?
Oh, good point. We'll check.
It's a short week.
A really short week.
Thank you.
It says on the proclamations, it says May 11th through May 17th.
Yeah, so we'll check the action to align to the proclamation. Thank you.
Good catch, Robin. Okay, that next there will be an introduction of new pretrial employees.
Yeah, Nicole Carbone, a pretrial services officer, will be introducing a new staff member on the pretrial services department.
Questions, comments, Commissioner Edwards?
No, thank you.
Okay, then there'll be an opportunity for the public to address the board and the county manager's update.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, moving on to consent items. We have a couple of them. The first one from Superior Court, waiver for procurement policies for professional services contract with executive recruiting firm.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As you may know, the Superior Court administrator resigned maybe a couple of months ago, and through the process, the Superior Court has found difficulty in filling that particular position. At my suggestion, speaking with the presiding judge, that she may consider hiring the recruitment firm, Prathman, in this case, to help on the actual recruitment of this very important position. As you may know, Prathman company has helped us on the recruitment of the Public Health and Social Services Director, and so far has been a great investment from, at least from my point of view. So for your consideration is to waive the competitive solicitation of professional services under Section 8.9 of Thurston County Code, Policy 0201, to enter into an agreement between Prathman Company for up to $35,000 and authorize the presiding judge and Superior Court to sign that agreement. Any questions?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I do have some questions on this topic. I don't know the wage scale that we're talking about, but if this is a position that's hard to fill, and I'm going to use the coroner's office, they have a medical examiner position that they're not able to fill. think part of it, the recruitment, probably has to do with adequate compensation. So I'm wondering if it would make better sense to give Judge Wilson, and I don't know if we can do this, but the authority to expend this money in some other fashion than hiring a recruitment process, because maybe we've got some good folks right here in our community that would be willing to take this on, recognizing that we maybe aren't adequately compensating the position. I know that HR is doing a review of positions and if we're compensating them properly, but this is a need we have today. So I have not discussed this with Judge Wilson to know if she would feel that this maybe would be a better expenditure, and maybe in fact they've got their eye on somebody, but they said, well, we just can't meet your need, your requirements. So I would like to know how we could proceed with that, but I guess I need a seatmate that might agree at least to take a look at this.
Commissioner Edwards, I met with Judge Wilson, I believe it was either last week or the week before, and we talked about this position specifically. And as you know, I have kind of very close ties to Superior Court. That was my previous employer. And the problem is in getting qualified candidates to apply for this position. The pool that they're getting is really not wide enough. And so I believe they were, when I spoke with her, she said that this recruitment was something that they were looking forward to, just to kind of widen that pool of candidates that are currently applying. And so that was just my conversation with her. You know, I'm happy to, you know, to remove this until, you know, if you want to have a conversation with her and see if it's something she would be interested or the Superior Court would be interested in. But I just wanted to relay the conversation that I've had with her at her check-in 2 weeks ago. Go ahead, sir.
I guess I'll take this opportunity then as maybe a follow-up for the public to realize that this is a good example of the Open Public Meetings Act being followed completely. And I had no information because we are not allowed to talk outside of these meetings about county work. So I would defer to your involvement and discussion. That's fine. I didn't know anybody had looked into this, and Judge Wilson will have adequate time to contact us if she feels that maybe this is a direction that she might want to go. I don't know if you guys talked about this or not, because we don't ever talk about stuff outside the board meeting room here. So I see the county manager's got his hand up. So I'm okay with your review of that situation. Thank you.
So, and again, that was my suggestion to Judge Wilson to exercise this. The $35,000 will be covered through salary savings. And by having the company, such as Prodman Company, to go through the recruitment process, I think that will give us an indication what are the gaps as to what we're facing in not getting qualified applicants. I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Edwards. I not necessarily disagree with that. I'm just concerned about the process in terms of adjusting the salary of any particular position without having an understanding if in fact that is a market issue or not. So my suggestion is for the board to consider authorizing Superior Court to get into this contract and explore the options as to how they're going to be more effective in recruiting for this position.
May I also add, the payment would only be made if they assist in finding us a successful candidate.
Oh, that makes me feel a little better. Thank you. Okay, well, more to come at some point down the road, looks like. Thank you.
Yeah. I have a question in regards to the Prothman company. And so my question is in regards to, did we go through a procurement process for us to contract with this company at the very beginning when we did it with public health?
No, Madam Chair. If you may recall, we reached out to maybe 3 different recruitment companies, and everybody was just absolutely busy. They didn't give us not even responded to our request, and some they declined to take this. The Prothman company had some capacity, and that's how we embarked on this. And the reason as to why we asked for a waiver of the competitive process under professional services, you do have the ability to do so. And expedites the process to get it, this recruitment firm as soon as possible. But that doesn't mean that you have to. If you like to go through a request for proposals, I mean, that's the option, obviously the option that you have.
We generally don't do RFPs for under 50,000. At that point, the officer department that's doing the purchase would just do some phone calls and get quotes, as Romero described, which we tried to do when we contracted for assistance for the public health director. But as Romero stated, we couldn't get quotes from many of the companies that do this type of work because they are slammed.
Okay. So my next question, Robin, you said under 50,000, but I believe, what was the first contract amount? Was it for 35,000 as well for the public health?
Yeah, it was the same.
And so then this one would make it another 35,000. So we would be looking at like 70,000 now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
So how do the rules apply now, since before it was under and now it's over that 50,000 limit?
So at the time you ink the first contract, you do a process that applies to the dollar amount that you know. If as you go, you add money, it's not as though we would suddenly find ourselves in a situation where we had to RFP for the whole thing. It gets a little complicated, quite frankly. But regardless of the dollar amount, the board has the authorization to waive solicitation for professional service. And that's what this is.
Okay. More to come. Okay, moving on
Would you like
to,
to keep this item for next week?
well, yeah, just we'll see how Commissioner Menzer feels once he comes in, and then I guess we can have more discussion next week. But for now, I'm fine with keeping it on.
I guess just as a question, then Commissioner Menzer maybe can review the meeting information here, the YouTube or whatever, and then he'll get it without us talking to him, right? We don't want to break any rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
I'm sure his aide is watching and will fill him in.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to item 3B, Public Works. It's an AIS SWAC appointment. Joe Downing.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee is composed by representatives from the jurisdictions as well as the Port of Olympia, and also members of the industry. So in this particular case, it's for your consideration to appoint Commissioner Joe Downing as the Port Olympia representative of the Thurston County for the Thurston County Solid Waste Advisory Committee for a 3-year term, May 2022 through May 2025. Commissioner Downing has served in the past on this advisory committee, so this will not be a new venture for Commissioner Downing. And Jeff is here to answer any questions.
Jeff, anything you'd like to add?
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Bickford, Solid Waste Manager. I believe the County Manager covered that pretty well. And Mr. Downing, as he mentioned, was most recently, his time ran up and he's just renewing his membership.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
You know, I have a question for Mr. Bickford about solid waste, but not about this topic. And I don't know if that's, can we jump into that, or are you going to cover that later, sir?
I'll cover that later.
Okay, no questions, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item. So I see C, D, E, F, G, and H are all for the treatment sales tax. And some of them are reappointments and some of them are new appointments I'm seeing. County Manager?
Yeah, I can just run through what is reappointments and what appointments. As you see on the actions, we're still working on the terms. So for next week, we will have the actual terms for each of those appointments and reappointments. So starting with the 3C is a reappointment of Ms. Wendy Tanner. Item 3D is the reappointment for Mr. Bob Jones. 3E, the reappointment for Ms. Gina Thompson. 3F, reappointment for Chalita Jackson. And 3G is reappointment for Ms. Sarah Destasio.
All right, is that reappoint or appoint?
Appointment of Mr. Sarah Destasio, thank you. And 3H is appointment for Ms. Tanya McCarthy.
So County Manager, can I make a suggestion? I'm sorry, Commissioner Edwards, I'm kind of butting in front of you, sir.
You go ahead, ma'am.
I'm sure like the reappointments are fine, but with the appointments, I remember last year there was a lot of conversation about the 2 appointments. Considering that Commissioner Menser is not here this week, I'm not sure if we're going to be ready to move on the 2 new appointments. I remember this being long conversations about all the qualifications of everyone who submitted an application. Commissioner Edwards, is that your recollection?
That is my recollection, ma'am. So I suppose Commissioner Menser will want to have some input. I don't know any reason not to appoint any of these applicants, but just as a courtesy for Commissioner Menser, I agree with you.
So Carrie Hedden was here last week and discussed all of the applicants, and I thought that the board gave direction.
For some reason, I don't recall that conversation, Madam Chair.
So,
My apologies, obviously. But I believe the board provided direction. They were trusting on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee on the appointments and reappointments. But certainly, if you'd like to take those items, the 2 appointments out of next week's agenda, we can certainly do that and give all the time the board needs to reassess those applications.
yeah, so Carrie did Robin, just to clarify, Carrie did a kind of small overview. We got the applications last week, and basically what we said is we would review them and then have a conversation about it when we would meet again. So no decisions were really made at that point on how we felt. So given that Commissioner Menser is not here today, I want to give him the opportunity to have a chance to review them and have a conversation with both me and Commissioner Edwards about, each of the appointments. I just remember that last year we did discuss all of the applications fully. So if that's the case this year, I want to be sure that we have that opportunity.
Of course.
So you'd like to remove those two items for next week, Madam Chair? I don't understand the direction.
So, yeah, can we just put them kind of like a hold on them? Just with that, depending on how the conversation goes next Tuesday morning, we might remove them.
Okay, so we'll just keep it the way it is, and then the board will make the decision next Tuesday, like to have it or not.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, is that okay with you? Do you have any questions?
I'm good with it, thank you.
And so the packet was given to us last week. I do have a couple of questions. Is that a possibility for Carrie to join at that meeting just in case we have any questions?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Next, it's item I, the approval of the voucher list and the month, day, or year is not.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This item will be moving into department item. On the voucher list for that week, we got a payment related to the atrium, and that payment is located on page 37. And is on the amount for the general improvements of 3,000 Pacific is on the amount of $1,403,762.45. So as you have practiced that, we'll move into department items for each commissioner will exercise your individual vote in approving the vouchers.
Thank you. Questions, comments, Commissioner Edwards?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Okay. Next, moving on to department items. Items 4A from the Commissioner's Office at a public hearing to revise commercial property assessed clean energy and resiliency program.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Back in June, back in June of 2021, the Board of County Commissioners enacted an ordinance implementing the CPACER program. Within that context, it was that's the commercial property assessment of clean energy and resilience. As we went through the process of implementing the CPACER program here in Thurston County, there was a couple of questions as to who will be the author that will manage in a way, or who has the responsibility for enforcing the liens related to this particular program. So at that point, it was the county treasurer, which he's present today in the room. It was included. The county treasurer was the office who will be proceeding with the liens in terms of delinquent liens. So that created an issue, and the county treasurer with his organization introduced a piece of legislation, this past legislative session, to clarify that particular responsibility. Within that context, that passed in this resolution is intended to change that, and mainly.
Excuse me, resolution or legislation?
Resolution, sorry. And changes really section 10 of that resolution that you passed, which refers to collection and enforcement. This is the next step in the process. I've distributed this copy for your consideration on a bill format. You see what changes have occurred. And before the board consider changes on this resolution, we will ask for you to set a public hearing for June 7, 2022 at 3 in the afternoon for you to receive public testimony related to this particular change. And again, Treasurer Gatman is here if you have any particular questions or if you can add additional perspective. Additionally, Jenica Machado is in Zoom. She has been coordinating this particular change, and in fact, she has coordinated the CPACER program for a little while now.
Thank you. Treasurer, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just, why this is coming about was, the state passed the CPACER program and left it up to the counties as to whether they wanted to adopt a CPACER program or not. And Thurston County, along with 4 other in Western Washington, did adopt CPACER programs. The county treasurers knew that the collection process for delinquent loans was gonna be messy the way that the state law passed. But, you know, we went ahead and after the 5 counties adopted CPACER and the lenders that wanted to work on CPACER loans saw the language and the county's interpretations of the state law that passed, and it was all 5 counties were nearly identical. The lenders realized that there was an issue, and they weren't real eager to loan given the collection process that was put in place. So the county treasurers worked with the CPACER group this year in the legislature to change how the collection of delinquent loans would be, and moved it from being a treasurer and county driven process to actually make it align with the process of going through the courts for a private mortgage delinquency collection. So it's a really good, clean law change, and I would encourage the commissioners to adopt it. And, oh, thank you, Jenica, for working with me on this.
Thank you. Jenica, anything you would like to add?
No, thank you. All that information was great.
Thank you. Okay, questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I do, but I saw Robin have her hand up at some point there.
I did, and I just want to say that if there are fees, enforcement actions, and collections involved, this should be an ordinance and be codified in county code, not just a resolution.
We work with our prosecuting attorneys under his guidance. Certainly we can place that question.
I strongly recommend if a county collects money, it should be codified.
That comment should have been made last year when we passed this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards, comments?
Yes. I think we did this last year, right?
June 2021.
So about a year ago. And I remember some concern about how this would fit. And I think the county treasurer brought that up at that time. And so we were talking about the same thing, right? And now you have went to the legislature and you have been successful, you and your association apparently, and had a law change that is now going to rectify all those concerns that you had even before.
Yes.
Okay. Now I have one other concern, and that is that is part of this for electrification only as these upgrades are put in? And the reason I say that, I have a concern that we're getting away completely from natural gas as an option in some of these commercial programs. So, does anybody have the answer if that is going to require strictly electric rather than gas heat?
The proposal the board passed last year, in this proposal is not prescriptive.
Okay.
It doesn't get to the level of detail as to what type of energy savings, any energy saving projects, any particular commercial property should go about. That's not. It just allows the program to be in place.
Okay.
So it will be up to individual applicants to determine what type of improvements they would like to do, and as a result, they need to reach out to a lender to fund those improvements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some jurisdictions are going towards some all-electric process that I'm worried about. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
You're gonna be here for a minute.
Okay, next is the District Court, item 5A, professional services contract for the substance abuse monitoring program. County Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As you may recall, back during the budget deliberations, the biennial budget 2022-2023, the Board of County Commissioners set aside $500,000 from the American Rescue Plan to look to support the use of technology in lieu of incarceration. So, through this process, this particular provision by the board will allow individuals to use a mechanical or technology element in order to be monitored without getting in this particular case, by the board allocating $500,000, I believe is a good investment as to how we can get through that process, eliminate the barriers for those individuals who cannot afford, and yet be prescriptive on the process of avoiding individuals being in the jail. So the district court has gone through the process on February 22nd, 2022, and the Board of County Commissioners approved issuing a request for proposals. And on February 23rd, 2022, district court received proposals and they concluded on awarding the contract to Friendship Diversion Services for the amount of $500,000. The performance of this contract, I believe, is going to go through the next couple of years. Frankie Peters, he is the court executive officer for district court, is here to answer any particular questions and additional perspective to the side.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. Do we have only, this is ARPA money that's going in here? I'm trying to think of the connection. Not that I don't want to do this, I'm trying to think of the connection of utilizing ARPA funds for this opioid type, potentially opioid problem, versus do we have any money coming in from the opioid settlement? Then that would allow us to use this elsewhere in maybe a more appropriate area. That's all. I'm asking the question.
I'm not aware of any money that the county has been guaranteed to receive from the opioid settlement. If the prosecutor is aware of money that we will actually receive, that at this point is guaranteed, then I would hope that he would reach out and discuss that with us as a revenue source. But right now, we haven't gotten any solid information on money coming in. I know there's something in the works. There's a possibility. It depends on if you were, what type of party you were to the lawsuit. That there's a lot of things happening, but I haven't seen we're gonna get roughly X much. So this is a allowable use under ARPA to the extent that we are using this as a strategy to keep the population in the jail down.
Okay. No, I'm not objecting to the whole thing. I'm just
No, I see you're
looking
trying to look for a different way to fund it, but.
Yeah. If I as a follow-up, perhaps, when and if any type of revenue comes as a result of the settlement, if it comes in, then we may not have to utilize.
maybe we can backfill is what you're thinking.
So when the board authorizes this, authorizes the contract, if there is any other funding sources that we can use before the ARPA funds, that's always we can exercise that.
Okay, we did something, maybe not the same, something similar for this week on HUD funding and where we're moving some money around to cover some things. I just wondered if we could do that. If something develops on that possibility. I realize it's not there yet.
Right.
But hopefully it's coming. So.
We don't have any real information.
Okay, good. No questions, ma'am. Thank you.
Fingers
more.
crossed. Commissioner Edwards, that we get that funding. Okay, my question, Frankie, I know this has been a goal of district court for a while now. But, you know, we set aside kind of that 500,000 to see, you know, I remember very well the conversation we had during our budget amendment. I have two questions. First, how many proposals were received in this RFP?
We received 3 proposals.
3 proposals. Okay. And my second question is, how many people would this cover? Is there like an estimate of how many people going through the program it would cover, or how would this kind of work?
So the numbers that we ended up pulling were based off the 2018-2019 numbers. Commissioners would recall, I believe our request initially was for 650,000 per year over the course of 2 years. And as that pilot, we reduced that to the 500,000 to see what this looks like. As far as the anticipated numbers, we're still, based off of the vendor proposal, still going to be close to that, which would include approximately, off the top of my head, I can get you the exact numbers, but that would look like over 200, I believe, blood alcohol monitoring devices over the course of the year, and 100 UAs per month that this would support, and that would end up utilizing the extent of those funds, not to go over 500,000 that was approved. So we'd still be able to meet a majority of the original anticipated that we calculated off of our 2019 numbers.
My next question, thank you for that, Frankie, is those individuals that have been waiting for this to go through, you know, what's happened to them? Have they gone to jail? Are they waiting for this? Or has, you know, what has district court done to individuals that are in need of this program, that have been in court this year, who this has been administered to?
So once the program is, once we have our first official go live, if you will, and we're able to move forward with this, any people brought to the court, the judge can still inquire to the current status. If there is somebody that is currently in custody and it may be because of an inability to pay for the blood alcohol monitoring device, those can be addressed there. Through Friendship, there has already been a number of people that they're currently actively monitoring for district court, not through this contract, that we can transition over to this program, and also leave open to the court motions filed by the attorneys or the defendants pro se to have this addressed if there is any barriers or needs.
And how was this, how was Friendship chosen out of, you know, if there were 3 proposals, what did Friendship have that the other 2 didn't? How was this qualified to be the suit you were going to go after or contract with?
A lot of it came down to, because the other vendors it was a very competitive process. A lot of the technology itself was supported by all 3 vendors. But the biggest part was the qualifications, the ability to meet the needs as far as the reporting structure and experience with the county. So that is what kind of inched them ahead of the other vendors, is that known experience, the reporting structure, because we want to make sure that as we get through this process, we're going to be able to report back every way and how this is supporting the county and everybody that's coming through the system.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Edwards, any final questions, comments?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Frankie. Moving on to Public Health and Social Services, item 6A, amend hoteling contracts for people experiencing homelessness.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me take you back a little bit, a couple months ago. Back in 2021, as you may know, the Washington State legislation passed House Bill 1277, which created a new $100 document recording fee. And as a result of that, the Department of Commerce released a portion of that revenue. The more conversation will come later on as to how much the county will receive in the long term. But the Department of Commerce awarded the county $1,633,401. So during the process, we went through the Regional Housing Council to determine how the particular allocation should be made. And on January 11, 2022, the Board of County Commissioners approved contracts to local nonprofits to use this fund for 7 different amounts. Following to that, the Board of County Commissioners held the awarding the contract of $100,000 to the Community Action Council of Lewis, Mason County, Thurston, and Thurston counties. The result of that action was you sent that back to the Regional Housing Council as to how the $100,000 should be redistributed. So the Regional Housing Council met and they agreed to provide recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners to award $50,000 to additional $50,000 to the Family Support Center of South Sound, and an additional $50,000 for Olympia Mutual Aid Partners. So the result of that, the original award for Family Support Center was $400,000. With this proposal, will be $450,000. And the original award for Olympia Mutual Aid Partners was $616,199. With the new award, will be $666,199. And Tom is here to add additional perspective related to this item.
Tom, any additional comments?
The only additional comment I'd add is both of these programs support hoteling of homeless individuals. So they're both hoteling programs.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
And the dollar amounts coming from?
This is from the document recording fees.
And it's dedicated money, we can't.
It's coming from the state, from the Department of Commerce. It's dedicated money. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I don't have questions. Thank you. Okay, after that, commissioners will report on board work sessions and assigned committee meetings. The county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners schedule, and we will adjourn the meeting at 3:30 or shortly thereafter. We will pick up with a Board of Health meeting. Now, we'll review the Board of Health draft agenda for our meeting of May 10th, 2022, and I will pass this to the Vice Chair.
Right. How about this? How about we take a real quick break and take this up right after the break? It's 10:15.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
happy to do that. Yes.
10 minutes?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Live?
Hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and we are back. It is 10:26 a.m. and we left off with the review of the Board of Health draft agenda, and I'll pass it to the Vice Chair.
Okay, and that will commence at around 3:30 this afternoon.
Next
week. Or, yeah, 3:30 on Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. And we'll have proclamations and presentations. We'll call the meeting to order, approve the agenda, approve the meeting minutes from April 12th, 2022. And we will have a proclamation on Mental Health Awareness Month. And I see we've got Kurt Harden here to fill us in on what to expect.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Harden, Interim Director for Public Health and Social Services. We're going to do a proclamation for Mental Health Awareness Month for the month of May, and we are lining up some visitors to come in and be part of that proclamation. I'll have more of a detailed list of visitors next Tuesday morning for the agenda setting on May 10th, but that's our intent right now and for the proclamation.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead with the opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. And I believe we're giving 4 minutes per citizen. I think it says 3, but I think it's 4, right?
4 minutes.
And then we'll have our first department item. And Kurt, you gonna cover that one or?
Absolutely. Our DCP Division Director, Dr. Laura Warner, started in the month of April. We'd gone almost a year in filling that position. We'd go through 4 rounds of interviews to find the right fit for putting that position in there. And that's a critical position within the Public Health and Social Services. So she'll be here next Tuesday to meet the Board of Health and to answer a few questions.
Okay. And then we'll have I guess a discussion in reference to expanding the Board of Health, and we'll get an update on that. And we'll get that from the county manager.
So I do have a question on that, Kurt. Is this a carryover item from the last meeting, or if there's any specific? I was not part of the conversation building this agenda. What is the expectation of the update?
I think there might be a carryover from the last meeting because I think we had it as a standing agenda item, but I think the action that the Board of County Commissioners took on the expansion should have taken care of that, and we can remove that because I think we have one additional one that's not on the agenda here that's being added.
Yeah, because I would like to probably touch base with you and your staff to develop a recruitment process. The board has passed the resolution, so probably it's not the right time for an update next week.
Right. So we can take this one off and then reschedule it later on for when we have more details on the recruitment process.
Thank you.
Okay, so that'll be removed. Then the next item up will be Thurston County Medical Reserve Corps. And some information, I guess, Kurt, you're going to cover that.
Correct. The Thurston County Medical Reserve Corps has been instrumental and critical in the COVID response over the last 2 years. We did an appreciation with the Thurston County Medical Reserve Corps 2 weeks ago, and this is an opportunity to recognize them and also to lay out what the future holds, how we're going to integrate the Medical Reserve Corps in the future post-COVID as we transition COVID from pandemic to endemic.
Okay. We have one other issue coming up, and that has to do with the sanitary code.
Right, Commissioner.
Setting a public hearing. But before we do that, do we have any update, and that's gonna, so we've got a little time here, on the pop-up process so that we can take a timely action if that is needed to help these citizens survive the bureaucracy. I'll just let it go at that. So do we have anything new in that regard yet? And I don't know if I'm referring that to Kurt or to the county manager, and they can pick out whoever they want to be on the hot seat on it.
Yeah, the staff from public health and Bernard can elaborate on that, are working on proposals to bring back to the board. So I don't think we're gonna be ready to have an item next week.
Okay, then I'm gonna take the liberty of chairing this little briefing overview. I had an opportunity to talk with some folks that do canned goods at some of our, like a home and garden show, for an example. But they're not allowed to open the canned good and let a citizen have a sample before they might make a decision if they want to purchase it or not. So I don't know how that fits in here, but I can see where we have several impediments to success for our small businesses in our community. So Art, I would just ask if you're going to be addressing that, if you just keep that in mind as well. Things like that, very small issues. I don't know. It's probably right there in the area of the lemonade stand, but I don't have an answer to that right now. But I am going to ask, and I'm not speaking on behalf of Commissioner Menser, but he'll be here later, and I think he also has some concerns with timeliness on getting back to us on some suggestions. And I don't know where Commissioner Mejia might be in that regard. So if you have any comments, Commissioner Mejia, before I move on.
No, I think an update would be great. And so, you know, just to see kind of where we are on that, definitely would not want to wait on this too long.
So am I safe to say sooner than later?
Yes,
would
sir.
be better? I guess you've got 2 thumbs up for that, sir. Sooner than later.
We're working on that, sir.
Okay,
we are working on
I
that.
realize you are.
Yeah, we are working on that. We're not idling on it.
I realize you are, and thank you very much for your attention to detail. Okay. Then, item 7. We're gonna set a public hearing for June 14th. And Art, maybe you can fill us in on that? Is that okay, Kurt? We're headed right in there? Is that what you had in mind?
I'd be happy to do that. And I am working on the pop-up food thing. I was actually in a meeting yesterday with folks from around the state where that topic came up. So I've got some good information, and I'm working on some options for you to consider. I don't believe they're going to require a code amendment. I think it's more of a policy decision on your behalf because of the way that the code is currently written. So, but I will have some information for you, and working on it a lot, actually, considering that we have just had the discussion on Thursday. So I hope to have some good options for you soon.
Thank you. Okay.
So regarding this is an amendment to Article 1 of the Thurston County Sanitary Code that we're going to ask you to consider. And I've mentioned this before, that one of the things that we did during the emergency declaration by the county is that you adopted some emergency ordinances that allowed us to conduct hearings and conduct other business electronically. And that's a feature that we'd like to be able to continue. And the way the underlying ordinances, or actually the underlying code, is written is that if we do, outside of this pandemic or outside of this emergency declaration, if we want to have hearings, most of them have to take place in person. And that isn't always necessary, isn't always efficient, or even probably prudent in most cases. So what we'd like to be able to do is to amend our sanitary code to be able to allow us to continue to do that conduct business that way in the future. And so that's what the main part of this proposed amendment to the sanitary code includes. And so it would allow us to submit things and receive things electronically. We'd be able to do things electronically as far as serving notices. Right now we have to do all that by mail. And so this would give us some options there, providing we can confirm receipt of the notices. It allows the health officer, who acts as the administrative hearing officer, to review certain permit requirements and things, and again, conduct hearings and appeals virtually, in other words, via Zoom or on the telephone. It also gives us some flexibility, which I think is necessary for property owners or people who have violations on their property, to get more time to pay penalties if that's necessary. The sanitary code allows us to charge civil penalties, and we do that very rarely. But right now the code actually is probably more stringent than it needs to be as far as the timeliness of paying those civil penalties. So this would give us some additional time, or the hearings officer the opportunity to give more time if the case warrants. It also clarifies some of the things about civil penalties so that the code would say or ask us to do things that are consistent with current practice, and also to be more consistent with Title 26, which is the enforcement ordinance for the county. So we would like the two things to be consistent where we can. And so that's the key things. I think it shouldn't be controversial at all. It makes good sense as far as business and making things more convenient for people who find themselves in the midst of a hearing, or needing to have a hearing, or some sort of semi-judicial process that we have. And so we're hoping then that you'd support this, and that we'd be able to schedule a hearing. I exchanged emails with the clerk of the board. June 14th seems to be a good time. We were tentatively thinking of 4:30 as part of your Board of Health meeting. And this is one of those hearings that probably shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to review them. The draft ordinance is attached. Jane Futterman worked on this. And even though it's 9 pages long, if you read it, you'll see the strikeouts and things. It's mostly to add things like electronic hearing options and things like that. So it's not, it's important, but it's not, not controversial.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
I guess I'd have a follow-up, Art. When will we get a chance to see these proposed changes?
The ordinance is attached to the AIS that's in the system.
Okay.
And I need to work with the clerk of the board to make sure we have the hearing notice language correct, to make sure that, the availability for attendance via Zoom and all that's worded properly. But the ordinance actually is already drafted and it's attached to the AIS. I'd be happy to send it to you via email or any other means that you would like.
Okay.
And we will post
just like to make sure that the board members get it.
Yeah, you'll get it, and we'll post it online as soon as if you choose to set the hearing next week, we will post it online within a day or so. So it'll be available to the public as well. We work really hard to make sure all that stuff's available for the public to review.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And we'll continue working on those pop-up things.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. And the county manager had his hand up. What's up?
Kurt, you said there's an additional item to the agenda before Commissioner Edwards goes through the rest of the items. What is it?
And thank you. I was going to bring that up right at this point. Is Commissioner Edwards had asked previously about an update on the fentanyl situation. And so there was an oversight on getting the AIS into the system, but we are scheduled, and we have the next week, the opioid task force coordinator briefing the Board of Health on this situation, along with the prosecuting attorney's office and the sheriff's office on the issue with the fentanyl overdoses in Thurston County. We're also working, and we believe we've secured also behavioral health portion of that briefing to be present next Tuesday. So that will all be part of it. And the AIS just dropped in this morning. And so that will be on the agenda for next week.
My question on that, would that fentanyl update be on our list of items for discussion so the public has a chance to see that before next Tuesday? So
It will be
sometime
added.
this week or?
The AAS is already in this morning, and so that will be added to the agenda for the Board of Health. The clerk of the board probably hasn't had an opportunity yet because we just dropped one. It's an oversight on my part for the AAS.
And we will upload the updated agenda before Friday, by Friday.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, then we'll have Board of Health members' activities. We'll have a health officer's report. We'll have an interim director's report. Anything you want to add, Kurt? No? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then we will adjourn. And that's going to conclude the overview of our meeting next week. Thank you. Back to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Okay, with that, we'll go on to proclamations and awards.
Good morning, Jamie Caldwell, Clerk of the Board. The proclamations, as previously mentioned, for Military Appreciation Month and Emergency Services Week is in your packet for presentation this afternoon. Bruce Rohrbaugh, Fleet Services Manager, will be in attendance to accept the Military Appreciation Month proclamation. And Kurt Harden, Emergency Services Director, and Ben Miller-Todd, the ALS Program Manager, will be in attendance to accept the Emergency Services Week proclamation. They'll also be accompanied by several local area fire department representatives. We have a couple of items for the boards and commissions. First, we received an application from Charles Rowe for reappointment to the Historic Commission. I forwarded his application onto the staff contact for review, and he resides in District 1. And next, we received an application from Kathleen McGaffigan for the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging. I am waiting for confirmation from them as to whether or not they have an opening outside of the reappointment application received last week for Ellen Went. Kathleen also resides in District 1. Both applications are included for your review.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
I don't have any questions on this. I guess we'll wait on the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging to see on their openings. And with Mr. Charles Rowe, I haven't reviewed his application yet, but considering he's a reappointment, I wouldn't mind reappointing him just because I know that committee has several openings. And then I would like to bring up the Planning Commissioner, my recommendation forward again. I know Commissioner Edwards had some questions about where Mr. Day lived, and I believe he sent an email to us kind of clarifying that. Sir, did you receive that?
Yes, I did, and I have no concerns whatsoever. It's your appointment, ma'am. I was just thinking about county residents versus city residents, that's all. And I see that's being addressed.
Yes, so I guess for the public, Mr. Day is in the process of, I think he said he was updating his home on the UGA of Thurston County, and that's where he's going to be living. Okay, so can we add that recommendation on to next week's agenda?
Yeah, we'll bring the appointment to the Planning Commission for next week for your consideration. And also, I believe, Madam Chair, you'd like to bring also, and I'd like to hear from Commissioner Edwards, the reappointment of Mr. Charles Rowe to Historic Commission also.
Yeah, I'm good with that, sure.
So you will see 2 items for appointments for your consideration next week.
Okay, thank you.
Did we get no problems with Dr. Fay or Kathleen McGriffin? I guess I missed part of that. We're good on both those, right?
For the EMS Council?
Yes. And EMS Council?
Yeah,
and-
it's, I think it was.
And Agency
reappointment.
Council, Agency, AG. Both those were all good? Everything good?
I think.
Did I miss something, ma'am?
So for the area on agency, Jamie said that she was gonna see if they had any openings currently
Oh,
for,
okay.
so I guess we're gonna be waiting on, Miss Kathleen McGaffigan and seeing if there's an opening on that specific board. And if there is, then, I guess we can move forward.
Okay, I guess I missed that, sorry.
Okay.
So for the emergency medical service EMS Council, you have the opportunity to review the reappointment for Ms. Sheila Brewer.
So that's until, I believe her term expires like in June, so we were holding on that until a closer date. That was my understanding on kind of why we were, I think she's been on this list for a couple of weeks. Just she submitted her application early, and Amy had told us that we were waiting until kind of her term was closer to expiring before we moved her application forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor, and I have no updates for you this morning.
Thank you. Briefing and public hearing decisions pending.
Nothing is pending, Madam Chair.
Okay. And Commissioner items.
Yes.
Within the conversation, we can give me the space to provide a little update on the compactor repair.
Sure.
The Waste and Recovery Center, when it's convenient for.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the last time that I reported related to when we're going to be able to fix the compactor was on the week of, I believe last week. Unfortunately, the contractor who was supposed to be coming and fix that. We have all the parts, so they will be here on the week of May 16th. And the issue was the subcontractor who has a very specific crane to work within that space was not available. So we're keeping up with a couple of May 16 will be where we're going to be able to fix the compactor. Related to the operations, we continue to use the open top containers. That means the trash is not being compacted. And through this process, more containers are being processed out of the Waste and Recovery Center. So we have been able to keep the tip and feed floor, empty, so allow us to continue normal operations at the Waste and Recovery Center as well as at the two satellite locations. So the operations have not been affected so far. Also, the last time I reported on this, the open top type of, without being the trash being compacted, costs more to process, and that is just an additional $3.10 per ton on the open top containers. We have been in discussions with Republic, and Republic will be crediting the county for this additional cost. So there will be a no price increase to the county as a result of going through the open top container operation. So the gist of this, on May 16th, we'll hopefully have the compactor repaired. We'll continue to work through the process of processing the solid waste in an open top container type of situation. And we do not expect any changes on the operations at the work. Last week, I asked the director to see if we have seen any backups, and I believe there has not been any backups more than the normal backups during the weekends for the residents to dispose of their waste at the location. So from the public's perspective, business as usual. and we'll continue to manage the situation, and I will keep you appraised if anything changes before May 16th.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards,
No.
comments?
No comments on that. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner items. Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
I want to talk about our the atrium project. I want to make reference to Mr. Pettit's submission yesterday, and I understand there was something today, but I haven't seen that. I just want to make mention that I was here years ago in a different role when staff told the then county board that everything was okay to move over to Tumwater with certain operations. That was in 2004. And I think the Washington State Supreme Court ruled on that issue. And I brought up before that oftentimes when we have attorneys involved, we have differing opinions. And I believe we have differing opinions yet today. And I'm going to refer to Mr. Pettit's Exhibit G, and that is Thurston County versus the City of Olympia in the Washington State Supreme Court. And the then board was told, hey, everything's okay. You know, there was never a attorney general opinion granted, but there were opinions from the legal folks of the day that said, oh, that's okay, we can make it work. And in the process, the county bought the fish plant over there for millions of dollars. Eventually never did use it. They also built a jail for about $100 million. And I think it took about 5 years to use that. And it's still not the best facility that we could be using. It is a problem. And then we end up owning property over there that we may or may not need. And I guess where I'm going on this particular issue, it was a poor location. But staff must have assured the county board in that day and age that this was all going to work. And that's where it come back to differing opinions. So the City of Olympia obviously objected. I think Tumwater liked the idea because maybe it would have been beneficial to them. But anyway, in the end, the Washington State Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. But we were already stuck with quite a financial investment by then. And that's why today I'm asking that we get an Attorney General opinion before we move down to the atrium. Because if we continue on the path we're on, I'm afraid we're going to waste millions of dollars and we may be in legal jeopardy. I continue to feel that what we're doing is illegal. And I know that's a pretty harsh term in the legal community, you might say, but it's more than a loss. I voted against this because I didn't think it was a good idea. I didn't know all this stuff was going to come up. And I really think that we've got a history of poor decisions. Current staff, I think, was never there, and nobody on the board was there, maybe during these decisions, but yet they took place. And I might remind the, well, I guess this is the public and my seatmates, that in the end, the Maytown lawsuit was ruled on by the Washington State Supreme Court. That ended up costing the taxpayers $16 million and lots of attorney fees that were generated by opposition as that case moved forward. The Supreme Court eventually ruled 9-0 against Thurston County. And I think that is a very damning ruling, if you will. Not 7-2, 8-1, 5-4, but 9-0 against the county. I have been asking for the last 6 months that we get a legal opinion in writing. We have been assured in several executive session situations that, oh no, we're okay. We're okay. I was never privy to any of those executive situations that took place prior to 2004. I was the county sheriff during that period and had advised against many of the options that the county took at that particular time. In the end, I was right. I'm not saying that to bolster my opinion means more than anybody else's. All I'm saying is we have differing opinions. We had differing opinions then, and we have differing opinions today. I can't seem to get a written legal opinion out of the prosecuting attorney's office here to affirm that we're doing everything right. But Mr. Pettit has recently brought up 5 things, I think, that he's pointing out that he feels are serious deficiencies. If we get adjudicated against in one fashion or another, we're going to be held possibly personally liable. And I don't know if that affects me or not, because I'm not voting on this stuff. I'm voting against it all the way through, and I have been. Apparently it says in there that it's under some of the RCWs that even staff might be facing some kind of a problem. I just don't understand why we don't get the safety net of an attorney general's opinion before we move forward. We can't even get an opinion from our own prosecuting attorney that can be shared with the public. I get asked, are we right? Well, in my opinion, no, we're not. But if I had something in front of me on all these topics that we could say, yeah, we've got an opinion here, but we don't. And we generally end up going to court and adjudicating the issue. So I'm asking for this board to go to the Attorney General of the state of Washington and ask for clarification on these issues. And I just don't see why we don't do that. I can't for the life of me see why we would skip that process and be as safe as we possibly could if we're going to move forward. I don't mind losing on a 2-to-1 vote in the democratic process. I just hate to see the county end up like it did, buying a fish plant, building a jail, trying to move the location out of this area. Found out couldn't do it. But they were told they could do it before they found out they couldn't do it. And I believe that's where we're at today. I think we're being advised there's something wrong with the advice. I'm not saying there's a nefarious something wrong, but I've spent my whole law enforcement career sitting in courts where there was opposing positions. They were all argued passionately. And I'm just saying, why don't we go get an opinion? I realize it's gonna hold things up, but the reality is, if we can't do it, then we're really in a pickle because we've got millions of dollars expended. We've got, I think, over $1 million going next week, I think it is. I just don't understand how come there's a rush to jump over the cliff. We're just not in that need today that we were, say, before the whole virus thing. Everything changed with the virus. If you look at all the state parking lots, they're still empty. Our own situation has worked out pretty well. People that had a job that could work from home are still doing so whenever possible. I think we're just jumping the gun. So, Madam Chair, that's my issue today as a commissioner's item. Asking for an Attorney General's ruling, asking for legal advice in writing that we can refer to in the future. So, that's it for me today. And I probably will be submitting a letter to the board myself, and I'll have to do that in a public setting because of the Open Public Meetings Act. I'm required to only communicate when we're in public meetings. I can't write to each one of you. If we were in the room together, I can't send you a private note without that being exposed to the open public meeting. And I actually want to have everything I do available to the public. So more to come. Thank you for your indulgence, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I only have one commissioner's item today. Well, I have more, but one that I would like to bring to the board's attention is Grace Harbor Commissioner Kevin Pine has reached out about the juvenile jail, and he's been trying to contact Superior Court and their judges about the possibility. This was looked at last year, but due to COVID, Family Juvenile Court said basically it wasn't a good time. And so they're following back up with us and seeing if, you know, if there's an update on that. Ramiro sent a communication to Family Juvenile Court, and they don't seem open to it. But I kind of want to explore what our options are. You know, is there something besides COVID that, you know, on why they're not wanting this to happen? And if so, you know, what are those reasons? I'm seeing it from a revenue side, but I kind of want to know, like, what other reasons are there for us not to contract with Grace Harbor and do this?
Madam Chair, thank you. Let me research the response that we got from, at that point, Judge Schaller related to this proposal. So, and I will bring that, I'll distribute that copy to you. And I can remember the response that she provided was before the pandemic or during the pandemic. But let me do that first, and then we can probably reach out to Juvenile Court, Superior Court if they have any updates. Will that work?
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
On that topic, I see where you're coming from. I have been an advocate to do something similar. I don't know exactly what you're proposing, and again, I'll refer to the OPMA, the Open Public Meetings Act, that we do follow the rules. You and I have never discussed this, but I have been an advocate for doing this for quite some time, many years, actually. And I've always been told, no. And you know, we're set up over there. We could have 60 cells full of inmates. I don't know how we refer to juvenile detainees, or at least maybe that's what they are, is juvenile detainees, or more. And I think we might have 6 over there right now. And it is the most inefficient operation or utilization of space that I can think of. So if you need a second vote to do anything to push this issue so we can benefit the taxpayers of Thurston County, I am there with you 100%. It is time that people are held accountable when they're spending taxpayers' dollars, and we do everything with the utmost efficiency. I believe we are going into a very serious recession, and I think we should not be wasting money anywhere. That includes going down to the atrium, but whole nother topic there, I realize that, but we're gonna be in a pickle, and we built a jail for $100 million and it sat there empty. It was a mistake. We were going into a recession when that happened. Anyway, enough said. Second vote if you want it.
I don't think Ramiro needs a vote right now, just because he's going to look at the letter. He's going to see kind of what the objections are. I just want to see like why specifically, right? Because I'm right there with you, Commissioner Edwards. I'm seeing this as a possible revenue source, and we're partnering with another county too, which is always great for our relationship building. And I'm failing to see the other side of things. So I kind of wanted to see what were the reasonings for not wanting to do this, and proceed from there. Because if it's something where there's a liability, then that would make a little bit more sense. But for me, I'm seeing it as also if a jail's sitting empty, right, and it's not being used, then why can't we partner with another county and help them out,
Madam
and also
Chair.
help our taxpayer base out?
Madam Chair, could I follow up with that, please?
Yes, sir.
I have had that explained to me by the powers to be that are in charge. And it didn't make any sense to me when they explained it to me. Why this could not take place. So maybe you'll make sense out of it better than I did, but it made no sense to continue wasting tax dollars. And please let me know, or maybe we can have something in public so the public can see some of the information that is given to us and how we are expected to make, pretty tough decisions. And I didn't mind ruffling feathers then, but I didn't have a second vote. And I don't mind ruffling feathers now, and it'd be a lot more fun if I had a second vote. So I'll just let it go with that. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll understand, and yes, I'm in agreement with you on having it in a public setting. So it's not like we can discuss this in private anyways.
Well, we could make up an excuse to go into an executive session or something, I'm sure, because of liability or something, but public is always better.
So I do have to.
The county manager, I figured I'd get a rise out of him here at some point. There he is.
Yeah, I do have to state that there is not an excuse as to how we schedule executive sessions. The executive sessions is prescripted by law as to how those are conducted. So the county manager and anybody doesn't have the latitude to create an excuse to have an executive session. It's prescripted by law, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other commissioner item, Commissioner Edwards?
No, I think I'm gonna let that one percolate for a little bit. It's pretty heavy. So let's see what happens, but more to come. Let's just put it that way.
And I do have one more, and this is in term of Zoom public hearings, and I'm not sure if this is a conversation we should have when Commissioner Menser is here. I'm wondering if there's a different format that we can do this on, and especially when we're having our afternoon meeting, if it can be, staff and whoever's presenting can be a panelist and attendees can be separate. I go to several meetings where it's formatted that way, and people can register to make public comment beforehand, especially for public hearings. When there's a bigger crowd and people are coming in, having people register beforehand, especially with the Zoom setting, will be easier to manage. And so I want to bring that up. I'm happy to host and let people in. I'm technologically savvy enough where I can be monitoring this screen, and I know my aide has also said that she can assist me with that. But I've noticed a lot of frustration from the public. I don't think it's a good meeting management when it's a full screen of people and we're trying to see who's talking, and especially when we're sitting in the boardroom, it's really hard to see. And with the timer up, I can't see someone talking. Like, I can't really see their face at all unless I'm sitting in Zoom myself. So is there a different way that we can format this? Because I think we're a little bit behind the times on how we're managing our Zoom, and I think we need to upgrade, or we need to do something different.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
On that topic, are you proposing that we do a hybrid, I guess is the best way I can put it, but also allow citizens that did not sign up for whatever reason or did not have availability to access that technology to come into the meeting room and sign up in person and testify?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So people in person, it would be kind of the same format. I'm just wondering about the people on Zoom. Zoom is kind of my main bone that I'm picking at, especially during Board of County Commissioner meetings or public hearings. It's really hard to see who's talking. It's really hard with the timer to keep a track of that. It's really hard. We've received several public comment about kind of people trying to register either to speak or just to view, especially in public hearings. And I think we need to, Zoom has all those capabilities, and I think we need to use them if they're available, because we're not really using it to its full length. We're just opening up a Zoom room and having people come in, and especially during larger public hearings, it tends to be a cluster. And these are things I've just been noticing over the course. So, again, I'm happy to bring this up when, Commissioner Messer is here and we can have a bigger conversation about it. But I've noticed a lot of frustration from the public. So we heard a lot of public comment about it. And so, and I've been frustrated as well with it. Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
I guess we as a board for years have tried to accommodate the public, and including we've went to remote locations and we ran into difficulties, to make sure we were doing everything just right. And I see this as an option, the way you're explaining it, to make it easier for some citizens to participate in our general government or a specific item of interest to them. So I'm with you on whatever it would take to make that happen, but I'd like to hear what Commissioner Menser says as well. But I think anytime we can open government up to the public, to the light of day, we're better off. So that's kind of where I'm at. So whatever that means, whatever that capability, whatever is available to make that happen, I'm all for you. Thanks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I understand what your suggestion is. Let me look into those options and we'll bring a proposal for you.
Great, thank you. And also a proposal for, not to keep, also a proposal for the clock. I understand why we did the Zoom clock on the screen, but again, it's hard for the commissioners to see who's talking whenever there's the big clock covering, who we're supposed to be seeing.
Yeah, maybe we can go back to, just give a warning when the 4 minutes is coming up. I think it was more of a convenience, but I understand what you're saying. The clock is taking over the screen. We're looking for a different option as to how we can just a single screen of the clock. So yeah, certainly there's opportunities to enhance that virtual environment.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I can help you with the clock if you want to put, my wife's got some kind of a thing on her stove sitting there that she taps it and it runs for so long and the bell dings. I could watch the bell ding if you wanted. I'm capable of starting the stopping clock or whatever. But I can help you a little bit there, but as far as me figuring out the technology that you're referring to, I think I'll pass that on to somebody else. I see the county manager can probably handle it.
We were doing that early on.
Were you?
Well, someone was watching the clock and asking the speaker to wrap up when the time came. But
I can go back to that.
yeah, we also got a lot of feedback from that the speakers wanted to see a clock. So that's why we tried this method, but there's got to be a
maybe it can have a countdown thing on it. I don't know. Or remote.
I'm sure that we've tried to find a way to minimize the
Size.
clock size and maximize the speaker, but it's tricky.
Okay. More to come.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me look for some options. I'll work with Jamie on that.
Perfect. And like I said, I don't mind being a host and doing that. One second, I'm trying to see 653. So Zoom does have some apps on here and I did find a timer one. I'm trying to access it. 1 second. Okay, and so it says timer is ready to use.
So does it not take over your screen, Commissioner?
No,
I know
it's
that
not. Here,
that's interesting.
They have to share that screen.
That's what I'm trying to see. So this is kind of what I'm viewing right now.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to see is.
See, I know when I use Zoom apps, like I love the whiteboard app in Zoom, but it takes over the screen, much like our current timer does.
So it does take over the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, things we can still start looking at and different options. I know the legislator has different things that they use when they're receiving public testimony. Maybe connecting with them. I think they've got it down pat. These past 2 sessions that they've been doing over Zoom. So, and I don't see why we can't access that same technology. Okay, that was my commissioner item.
So while we look at, I would just add that while we look at short-term solutions, I think that there are a few of us who are banding together to look at what longer-term solutions for technology in our meetings can look like. Because we know we want to automate the agendas, we want to automate the budget sessions, Brian was looking into better things for meetings. So ultimately, we may find that there is a system out there, and I would love to know what the legislature uses.
So in the legislature, what it does is when you have the whole Zoom screen, there is one screen that just have the countdown. So the countdown doesn't take over. So, and I think there is an option for somebody to log in, and that will be the screen. Yeah, so.
They also do sophisticated, you're in a waiting room until it's your turn to speak.
Yeah, and that's what Commissioner
I mean,
Mejia is stating, is just using the waiting room as a way to manage the public. You know, and the individuals who are waiting in the waiting room can still see the Zoom screen. And I think the Commissioner Mejia is stating is by bringing one at a time, you know, it doesn't clutter the screen. That's what you're referring to, I believe.
Yes, and then we can see who's talking.
So, and then it's just one person, then you dismiss that person back to the waiting room after that public testimony is done.
Yeah.
So I will look at that option, yeah.
Okay, with that, anything else?
No, sounds like you're gonna give us the gift of time.
We are adjourned. We'll be back at 2. Thank you, sir.